and here you can have different functions to do different or simple tasks. For example, we want I want us to create 3 functions to do things, to greet people or to greet you, and then another one is to do a simple calculation of 2 numbers. One will be doing addition and another one will be doing subtraction. So here is how you do function. You use the keyword def to mean that you are defining the function, and then you have the function name like that. So we can have a function greeting. So this line is defining a function, and you can see we have the word def, and then we have the function name, and then the bracket. Inside the bracket it can be empty or it can have something. We shall come back to that. And then at the end here you have the colon. So you hit enter, and then here you can you have your, and maybe it can even have some variables. For example, name is equal to you can put there your name like that, and say so that you want it to print the name good evening so and so. So you can add that here, good evening, and then you add name like that. So that's how we define a simple function. To define the function, you need to call that function. So here let me try to run and see. We don't expect any output. Let me like that. Yeah, you can see there is nothing, there is no output. But if you wanted to print this or to execute the code inside the function, you need to call the function. And how do we call the function? We call the function by its name, and it's so you go back to the main program. Going back to the main program means you stop indenting and you write the name of the function. So you just write greetings like that, and then you put the brackets like the way you have used it here. So if you do that inside the function, and you can call a function several times. For example, you can call like that. So if you call it twice, it means it executes that code twice. You can see here it is executing this code, and here it is also executing the same code. So you can call a function several times depending on, this is the function call. For example, we want a function to do the addition, so you can say div add, then you can have some values here. These values are known as arguments. For example, you can say number 1, number 2, like that. So this function we want it to be able to add 2 numbers, and the first one will have the argument number 1, and then the next one will have the argument number 2, and therefore you can say return number 1 plus number 2, and if you don't specify the return value, it returns none. For example, here we did not specify the return value, so it returns none, and here we have specified, so it is supposed to add these 2 numbers. So we can also call the function inside the main program here. So so this is how we call the function. This line calls the first function, then you can also call the second function, and you call a function by its name. So just write the name of the function, and if it has 2 numbers like this one, it has this, so inside the bracket you also pass 2 values. So you need to pass 2 values. For example, I can say 3 and 6. So it is supposed to add the 2 values and print that. So I can say, I can even put a function inside a variable and say that sum is that, then come and print sum like that. So if I save this and run things, like this one, so it is going to print good evening like that. And then this one is just simply doing the addition, so it is going to do the addition and return the sum of those two numbers. Okay, we can have another function. I said you can have several functions within a program. For example, here I have just added I have passed 3 and 6 to this number, to this function add, but you can get the arguments from the user. For example, you can ask the user to enter two values, and then the two values you pass them here. For instance, I want us to ask the user to enter two values. So you can say print, or you can just say input. You can say a number, you can say first number, you can have any variable. First number is equal to int, then input, int input, and then you can say enter the first number like that. Then once they enter the first number, you can also ask them to enter the second number. Then the values that you get from the user, you pass to that function. Okay, I need to close that like that. And then here you can write and ask the user to enter second number. So I want us to call this function add also by passing these variables. So we ask the variables, the items from the user, and then we pass to that function so that it can do the addition. So we can do this. We can say that sum2 is equal to add, and then so add is the function name. Then now we want to pass the variables because it has two arguments, number 1 and number 2. You can pass the value of first number into the place of number 1. So you do that, and then comma, then you can now have this and put it like that. And then you can tell the computer to print. So here you can tell it to print sum2 like that. And if you do this, so here we've called the first function which prints the greetings, and we've called the second function twice. We've called it at this moment at line number 14, and we've called the same function at line number 15. That means that you can call a function several times. You don't need to call it once. You can call it several times, and that brings about the concept of code reusability. So you can reuse the same code instead of going back to write the same thing over and over again. So you can just, so if I run this, you see it is asking me to enter the first name, so the first number I mean. So if I enter a number like 30, then I can enter the second number like 50. It is supposed to add those two numbers. So if I hit enter, you see it starts by printing the first call, which is greetings. So it prints the greetings, then after that it goes to the next line which calls the function, and for this one we have assigned the number 1, we have assigned it the value 3, and the number 2 we have assigned it the value 6. So it adds the 2 to get 9. We have called the similar function at line 15, and we have passed the arguments that I get, the variables that I get from the user, first number and second number, and therefore it prints 80 when I enter 30 and 50. And the good thing with functions is that the